division. So they got rid of Saturn, Saab, Hummer, and then they sat back and they took a look and they said, well, you still got overlap. You got Pontiac and Buick overlapping one another, and we don't need to have both brands. Well, the option was to go ahead and take Buick over Pontiac, and the reasoning behind it was the fact that Buick had this new emerging market over in China, where you could sell all the Buicks you could sell, and you couldn't give away a Cadillac. Well, when that all happened, and this is after the fact, curiosity got the best of me, so I figured, why is it they can sell a Buick over in China of all places and they can't give away these other cars? Well, it turns out during World War II, the American generals in Europe drove Buicks as staff cars. And the Emperor of China made note of this, and it kind of became etched in the Chinese culture that a Buick is an emblem of status. And as a result, Buick became a very popular car over in China. So if you're following my progression here, you can blame the Emperor of China for saving Buick and sinking Pontiac. But I assure you, it didn't take from the time of DeLorean leaving General Motors to go ahead and get the Pontiac. It only took 8 lonely years where nobody was watching what was going on. That is the true story, from my perspective, what I saw while I was sitting there. It makes sense. If there's any questions, I'll try to better explain it. Yes, sir.
I missed the brand name. You know, when they say G5, G6.
Well, there's another one slated to come out, something called the G-Whiz.
They had no identity.
All the car companies are coming out with that. I mean, it's the alphabet soup on cars. You know? I mean, Cadillac's got it, and some, some Ford Motor Company's got it in some of their cars. Pontiac got it, G5, G6, the G8. It's coming. But yes, sir.
One of the things I remember when the new era GTO came out, the 04s through 06s, and specifically Lynn Myers, was that she made some comments to the media that the M word was not to be used with the new GTO. In other words, the muscle car word.
Well, again, as I said, Lynn was a very nice lady, and she was no general manager. She was no car person. And, she, stepped on her toes so many times over the course of time that it was not even funny. And these days, a lot of people say, that 04 to 06 GTO, the thing was dated, it wasn't that great a car, and so forth. And I go, wait a minute. I mean, in 2001, I was fortunate enough to be invited to go to Australia, and I was a guest speaker at the Australian Nationals, and had a wonderful time down there. By the way, if you ever get a chance to, if you've never been to Australia, you ever get a chance to go to Australia, you will love it. They love us Americans. It's one of the few places in the world you can go. When they hear our American accent, they can't do enough for you. And I don't care if it's a cab driver or a department store clerk or a person on the street, they love us there. You can actually go ahead and wear a baseball cap that says USA. But Lynn just didn't get it. And of course, then she had this Bob Crowd who was doing the marketing on this thing for her and just completely mismarketed it. But, as the car started to go ahead and things started to fall apart, so well, the car was kind of dated, it wasn't that great a car, and they should have done this, that, and the other thing. I said, wait a minute. I remember reading on the internet where people were saying, hey, look at General Motors, they're building this car from Holden down there, that they got this LS motor and this thing, and that'd make a great GTO. Well, be careful what you ask for, you might get it. Well, that information got to a guy named Bob Lutz, and Bob's the guy that went ahead and brought it up to the United States. And there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that had to be done on that car in order to bring it to the U.S. because the standards for one thing, the standards for plastic is different in Australia than it is in the United States. So they had to go ahead and completely redo all the dies and so forth for the plastic parts in the GTO. Crash standards are different in Australia than they are in the U.S. And that's the reason why the trunk of the GTO is a little bit smaller, because they had to move the gas tank forward and they basically put it behind the rear seat to go ahead and be able to go ahead and conform to crash standards. And there's a whole litany of other things they had to change in the car. And they brought that to the U.S. and they did it in under 18 months. That's almost unheard of. And then, of course, the first year it didn't have the hood with the snorkels on it, but by 2005 they made that change and a couple other things. But then the negativity of the whole thing started coming out, and the cars just, it seemed to be tailing on off. So it only lasted the 3 years, and the car was gone.
I got the impression that Bob Lutz was brought in as as kind of a troubleshooter to try and pump up the Pontiac brand, for example. But apparently he had enough influence to create the GTO, but he didn't have enough influence to help direct the marketing efforts.
Well, what Lutz did is when everything was coming apart back in 2008, and they wanted to close Pontiac down, he tried to save Pontiac and wanted to make Pontiac a niche brand as an offshoot within Buick. And he's the one that pushed to bring the Solstice into the marketplace, and wanted to go ahead and make Pontiac just a specialty market with the G8 and the Solstice, and he had a couple other cars, but of course it was too late, and the government wouldn't even hear about it. But he was a cheerleader for Pontiac, and exactly why that was, I don't know.
But apparently he didn't have much line control over the Pontiac organization. I guess that's kind of the question I'm driving at. I mean, he was not able to determine how the car was marketed, for example.
I hear what you're saying, but I mean, the succession of the very top tier of General Motors at the time was Rick Wagner, who was the top guy, okay? Bob Lutz was number 2, and John Middlebrook was number 3, okay? And, 2 out of 3 of these guys had real deep, feelings for Pontiac Division, but they just couldn't get done because they were fighting against the government because they needed the money to keep the doors open.
Okay, thank you.
So any other questions about how the thing?
I'm just kind of curious, when they chopped off really in Pontiac and Oldsmobile, they kept GMC trucks and Chevy trucks, pretty much the same thing. Was that a political decision, or how that happened?
It was a conscious market. For those of you didn't hear, they're wondering, okay, because they got rid of Pontiac over Buick and so forth, and Oldsmobile was gone, why they got Chevrolet truck and GMC truck. Well, it was not a political decision. Well, maybe you might want to call it political. But they did quite an in-depth study on it, and they discovered that if they were to go ahead and get rid of GMC and just combine everything down into the Chevrolet, that the logic was, well, they couldn't get a GMC, so they had to go ahead and buy a Chevrolet. It's not that, it doesn't work that way in the auto industry. That there's a loyalty factor that people would go ahead and they'd go out and buy a Toyota truck before they go ahead and buy a Chevrolet. I mean, no disrespect intended for Chevy, but it just worked out that way. But the combined production, because they built both trucks at the same assembly plants, gave us a justification for building. So rather than taking the risk of losing the plant capacity to go ahead and build vehicles, they're leaving GMC alone. And GMC has actually become an up-level vehicle. I mean, Chevrolet does a nice job with their car, and they have the LTZs and all so forth, but then GMC takes it and goes one step further with their LTS and Denali models. And of course, they Cadillac on the Escalade and so forth. Which, by the way, Cadillac on their Escalades is kind of a funny story because I was there when it happened. That there was a point in time when the car companies when General Motors came out with the Denali for GMC, not to get off into a GMC story. And anyway, they went to Cadillac because they wanted to see if they could get a little bit more production out of the thing and justification for the pieces that they were making. And Cadillac said, why would we want to have an SUV? We're a car company. These days, Cadillac sells a hell of a lot more Escalades than they do automobiles. Sometimes they're not the sharpest pencil in the box. Anyhow, I touched ever so briefly on, we were talking about the car, about Pontiac Division and so forth, and I mentioned ever so briefly about, there was a thing that came about that happened to me back in 2003, which was not exactly one of my proudest moments of General Motors, but I got involved in a very lengthy and expensive lawsuit with General Motors. Again, what happened is that this group that had come in from the outside, Bosch and Lund and Procter & Gamble, they were going to reinvent General Motors. And as you guys know, as car collectors, here we've got all these Pontiac records, but there's nothing out there for Chevrolet, there's nothing out there for Buick, there's nothing out there for Oldsmobile. There are a few records for Cadillac. And they had a director of public relations for General Motors. He was not Pontiac, he was for General Motors, but he was over all the divisional people. The guy's name was Scott Keller. And he had this vision that if he could go ahead and get the Pontiac records and destroy them and make me and my company, you know, some miraculous fire, flood, or other calamity. None of them, that way then nobody would have any records in the cars, and the phones at Chevrolet would stop ringing, the phones at Oldsmobile would stop ringing, the phones at Buick would stop ringing. So they first tried to go ahead and con me into giving the records to them and moving them over to this GM Heritage Center. And I sensed that there was something wrong with it. And before I go too far in the story, okay, everything that we've got and belongs to my company. I mean, it was given to me by Vice President of General Motors and General Manager John Middlebrook. And I've got paperwork to go ahead and show that. Although at the time that we were using it, the microfilm did not belong to me, but I had exclusive access to it. But anyhow, when Pontiac moved out of the Pontiac headquarters, we were the last people in the building, and they were actually, there was a crew actually going ahead and they started to throw the microfilm down the chute. They didn't realize we were using it, and I stopped and I was there. And so they said, well, if we're throwing it away, of course, where can we put it? So we were able to save the stuff. And by that reason alone, we were able to go ahead and it became our property. Well, anyhow, this guy decided if we could go ahead and, if he could go ahead and destroy all the records, then it would all go away. So they first came out and they tried to go ahead and they sent, for you women, I don't mean to sound sexist, but the new wave of women coming out of college these days can give the B word a whole new meaning. And they sent her out to go ahead and tell me where the sun shined. And so I showed her my copy of my paperwork and politely sent her on her way out of my office. And so as a result from that, then they put a team of people from General Motors that I got a phone call at my home, because we were in our home building, because like I say, they moved out of Pontiac, and we were in our home building, and I was in the building that we were sharing with the people that had the Pontiac and GMC and Chevrolet press cars, and they came in early in the morning. I got a call at my home, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning from them, and they said, hey, there's a couple moving vans out here with a bunch of guys from GM Security, they're trying to break into your office, you better get on over here. So we hopped in the car, we ran down to the office, and lo and behold, there's had a GM Security and a bunch of his henchmen. And if anybody doesn't believe, I happen to bring it along with me. Here's a copy of the incident report from Troy Police Department. And I wound up calling the police department for the community, which happened to be in Troy, Michigan at the time. And they came on down, and by that time the attorney from General Motors was there, and it was a great big hubbub, but nonetheless, they made them go away. So the next thing that they did is they put a team of people that became my shadow from GM Security. And actually, I feel kind of proud about it, because not only GM Security, it was GM Executive Security. So I was a part of an elite group to go ahead and be watched over. So they parked in front of my house overnight, followed me to and from the office, parked at the office during the day. If my wife and I went out to dinner, they'd be at the next table. If we were at the mall, they'd be walking behind us. And it was just a means of intimidating. And I sensed that, I went to a meeting, and I sensed that there was people in the meeting that had no idea that this was going on. And so I brought that to their attention, and that team was gone, just lickety split. And so I sat down and said, look, let's get this worked out, because to that point, I had just a wonderful relationship with General Motors. I mean, many of you folks have seen, for years I was responsible for the Pontiac Historic fleet. I had a little budget that we could ship cars around the country to bring out to the national conventions, and I'd bring in, guest speakers for the company, and I had a little budget, and that was part of the thing that Pontiac wanted me to do. I was the go-between between the enthusiast groups like GTOAA and the company. I would take what the enthusiasts would say and I would convert it into a language that the guys of the corporation would understand, and vice versa. And it worked out very well. And we did that for, 19 years or so. And so anyhow, this whole thing was just very unnerving for me. So anyhow, we tried to figure out a way to go ahead and resolve this whole matter. And the very next day, they went ahead and filed sued me. And we wound up going to circuit court in Oakland County, which is back up in the suburbs of Detroit. And they did a bench trial, which lasted over a week. And prior to that, they tried to arbitrate it out and so forth, and they were just completely unreasonable. And so it went to trial, and the bench trial, and I had a very, very smart judge, thankfully. My wife and others people thought, oh my God, you're going up against it's a David and Goliath situation. And I said, I've done nothing wrong. I've got all my paperwork in order, and if these guys can prevail, I'm actually, I'm out there fighting. I'm not even fighting for myself. I mean, I'm fighting for all you folks too, because if this stuff would have been gone, it would have been devastating. I mean, it would have hurt many, many different ways. So anyhow, unfortunately, after I left General Motors years ago, I made a few dollars in life, and we were able to go ahead and fund this lawsuit and took them on. Although people thought I was crazy to go up against GM, but I did nothing wrong, and we did. And so we won. It was a lengthy thing, and on the very last day that they could go ahead and appeal it, they appealed it to the Michigan Court of Appeals, and I had to go back into court a second time. And I thought that when I went to the Court of Appeals, I thought that I'd really been screwed this time, because General Motors had, for years, had always been at the General Motors building in downtown Detroit, but they've now moved their headquarters. You now hear about the Renaissance Center in Detroit, where they're at. Well, they donated that whole building that they were in, the General Motors building, which is a historical monument in the Detroit area. They gave it to the state of Michigan. And I don't care what part of the country you go, where all the executives from the General Motors, they're up on the 14th floor. You heard that term? Okay. Guess where the Michigan Court of Appeals is at? And I thought I was going to be walking into a kangaroo court. Well, fortunately, the judicial system, knock on the wood, worked in my favor, and I beat him a second time. The only thing that they were able to do, which I don't think anybody's ever realized until I just pointed out to you now, the only thing that they were able to do to me is they made me take the name Pontiac out of Pontiac Historic Services, so we're better known these days as PHS. And I tried to tell them that even back then we were better known as PHS, and leaving the name Pontiac in there was more to their benefit than it was in mine. And they said, no, we don't care. You got to make it. But now that Pontiac's gone, actually I could go back to being called Pontiac Historic Services, but I like the little acronym. So that's a short version and how we went through all of that. But that lasted from 2003, and we didn't finally get that thing closed up until 2009. And it was a very, very, very expensive lawsuit that I wanted to be able to pay out of my own pocket. So, and I wouldn't even talk about it these days, but there was an article. There was ever heard of this Sports Car Digest magazine? Guy named they put this magazine on a monthly basis. Well, there's a guy who's a staff writer for the thing who's he's a lawyer, but he's also a journalist, and he stumbled onto the court case on this. And he called me up one day and he said, this is a very important story, so I think it needs to be written and talked about. And I said, I really don't want to open up the old wounds again. I don't want to go up against General Motors again. And I don't think General Motors wants to go against me. I'd rather just let it slide. He said, brother, with or without your help, he said, it's going to be published. And he said, I'd really like to have you fill in a few of the little blanks and things. And I said, well, that being said, okay, fine. And they did do a very nice article on the thing. And so from that, there's a lot of people in it that have known that we had this thing, because up until that point, I had never said a word to anyone about it. Yes, sir.
Why did they want to do that? What benefit is it?
There is no benefit. You have to understand. And I'm trying to be polite about this, but from their perspective, is if there were no records for any of the divisions, life would be good. To have records for one division and not for the rest of them, that's a problem. So if we can make them go away for that one division that's got them, life would be wonderful. I know, I see you scowling. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but this is the mindset of the people that run General Motors. I hate to say it, but the people, the mindset of the people that run General Motors today. They don't care about customers. They don't care about you people out there. They don't care. All they care about is what their next assignment is and how much money can they make and can they get themselves a nice house out in the suburbs. I shouldn't say here, there's a few good guys left. But generally speaking, it's not the same. They just don't have the motor oil in their veins. Back when I went to work for General Motors, back in what I call the golden era of college pull-up, I went to work for Chevy. Oh my God, this is like me. This is the equivalent of winning the Powerball. And then a couple of years later, I went up and I started out in the material department, but I got lucky. I got moved. Pete Estes moved me over and moved me over into the sales group, and I was fortunate enough to be dumped into this thing that's called Fleet Special Order Department, which you folks that the document we work with is called COPO, and I'm sure everybody in the room, even your Pontiac guys, heard the term COPO. Well, that was what I did, and I'm the guy that did all the hot rods. I did all the 427 Camaros and Chevelles for Chevrolet Division. Don Yanko used to stay at my apartment when he came to town. And I ran with a lot of the guys. Barb, sitting in the back of the room someplace. She back there. She was one of John DeLorean's backup secretaries. You know, I mean, I worked for Estes, I worked for DeLorean. I mean, I've had a chance to go ahead and run with some people that you read about in history books these days. I mean, I'm just tickled the fact that I was around for like all this golden era and things that we did back then. I mean, budget, we didn't have a budget. When I was at Chevrolet, if we had an idea we wanted to do something, nobody ever talked about money. Just go ahead and do it. Any questions? A couple of them. Let's start. Jan, you.
Because I never got a straight answer. But in 2010, when we signed those contracts, everybody got the same one. First of all, and I never got an answer for it. Why did we lose Good Ranch? Why did we lose that brand name? Did it something to do with the new gym, the old gym, or the two different corporations? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know the definitive. I know enough about it to be dangerous. You know, because you know, there's as you and I both know, there is what the old GM and the new GM, and in that shuffle, there was an awful lot of things that was very, very carefully strategized to benefit one way or the other for certain people and for certain tax benefits and so forth. The exact reason why that all played out versus, you know, Good Ranch and some of these other programs, I have no idea. I mean, I got a good guess, but as far as if that really happened, I have no idea. And I'm not going to go ahead and try to stick my neck out and say something if I'm not sure about it.
Good brand name, just was gone.
It's going to be great brands. You know, I mean, look, I mean, you talk about brands here, you talk about Pontiac versus Buick. When Pontiac was killed, okay, Pontiac was outselling Buick domestically 8-1. 8-1. I mean, it's a published figure. You can double check me on that. My thought would have been we could have gone ahead and kept Pontiac here for, you know, for North America and taken and rebadged those Pontiacs as Buicks to go ahead and send overseas to China. Or have a special model that we call a Buick and send that to China. I mean, heck, I was only in marketing for 40 years working for General Motors. You know, what can I say? You know, to me that made perfect sense, but no, that's not the way it happened. Anyways, another question a little further down. Yes, sir.
Recently, about a month ago, in fact, there was an automotive magazine, there was a story on it. I read an automotive writer. He was out in Detroit, Michigan. And you mentioned Buick Specialties, and that was the gist of this, was that inside of General Motors right now, there's an ongoing conversation to bring the Trans Am back. But the problem is, it was Pontiac, and they want to bring back Buick. People inside of GM don't know if it was sell as a Buick versus Pontiac, and they don't want to bring them back.
Yeah, back in Detroit, I've heard the rumor about that too. And I think it's nothing more than a rumor. I'd be very surprised. It's a matter of ego. You know, they killed the brand, and it would almost be, you know, accepting the blame or the guilt for killing something they shouldn't have killed to bring back the Trans Am. I mean, if you stop and look back in the course of time, you know, there was a period of time that the Trans Am by itself, I mean, I realize I'm talking to a bunch of GTO guys, but Trans Am all by itself kept Pontiac doors open. I mean, they sold a hell of a lot of Trans Ams back, you know, in the late 70s and so forth. I mean, I realized a lot of it was a result of Burt Reynolds annex, but, you know, and every time we came out with one of those special edition Trans Ams, sales would spike. You know, I mean, I sat in a Firebird, not to get off on a tangent, but I sat in a Firebird brand team as an advisor. And when we were doing, I knew the Firebird was going to be going away at the end of 2002, and I sat in a meeting back in 1999 where I was looking at the proposed, that I'll call it hideous-looking yellow convertible with the black accents on it. It was going to be the proposal for the final car. Their special editions go away, you know. And the brand manager was a guy named Jim Murray, and he invited me to come to this thing and take a look at it. And everybody walked around and looked at it, and all his people in his group and so forth. So after we went back into the conference room, I'm sitting back in the room, and Murray's a character, and I liked him. And he said, Mattison, he said, I didn't invite you to this thing to sit back and eat the donuts and drink the pop. He said, what's your thought about this car? And I said, Jim, I said, you got your guys. I said, you don't want to hear my opinion. He said, that's exactly the reason I brought you. I said, I hate it. I said, stop and think about it. I said, Jim, I said, 3 times over the course of recent times, you brought back out the color yellow on a Firebird, and 3 times you had to drop it because we couldn't sell the car. So you bring out this last car as a swan song, you bring out a yellow Firebird. It doesn't make sense to me. And I said, as far as the accents on it, it looks like you handed the car off to a high school co-op, shop group to go ahead and jazz it up with the black wheels and this and that. I said, it just doesn't make sense. I said, but that being said, I said, from my perspective, every time we came up with a special edition Trans Am, those black and gold cars, sales would spike. I said, I would think it would be a great tribute to the brand to go out with the guns a-blazing. So let's take and make black a special color, available only as a special order, as a special edition. Send the car over to the design staff, have them come up with some fancy gold badging and so forth for the car. I think it'd be a great tribute. Well, you see where my idea went. And I later found out that yellow was the favorite color of our brand manager, and that's the reason why it was yellow color, and all the other black accents, the assistant brand manager, that was his idea. It's on the other hand or something. Yes, sir.
The idea, Pontiac Gold, the GM, they were tracked, how many stayed loyal to GM, and how many went to other brands, or any information like that. I don't want to,
I'm sure that information exists. The question was, is that does anybody track, when Pontiac went away, how many went off to other brands and so forth. I'm sure that there was information about that, but I'm also sure that information is being very, very closely kept, and you'll never hear about it, nor will I. I do know that there's a brand loyalty that you would think that just because that Pontiac isn't there and everything's now more or less shifted over to Buick, that the people who would normally buy a Pontiac would go and shift over to Buick. That's not the case at all. They'll go to Fords, they'll go to Toyotas, they'll go to Mazdas, they'll go to whatever. Yes, sir.
Did you have any involvement in the concept GTO in '99?
The concept GTO in 1999, that clay model thing? No, that was strictly done from the design staff. That was their ideas. That thing was, that didn't even roll. That wasn't on wheels. That thing was a brick. That thing was a great big, I don't know if you want to call it clay or whatever, but that thing, they had to push it around. It went to, I don't think we ever shipped at any of the big shows, but I know it went to one of the GTO things at Freedom Hill back in Michigan one time, and they had to push it around and so forth. I mean, that thing was horribly, not expensive, but well, it was probably expensive too, but it was horribly heavy, and it was on casters, and you had to push the thing, and you had to be careful with it. You got on the light too long, because then the clay would crack, and it was a mess. Yes, sir.
Interestingly enough, and maybe it's just my perspective, but I've seen a lot of pictures of that concept model. Okay, and from the side, it bears an uncanny resemblance to the current Camaro. Do you see that in the car?
Well, I mean, it was done by GM design staff. Okay, and GM design staff, did the new Camaro. Although, in fairness, the new Camaro was not designed in Detroit, but the GM design staff, it was done out in California in a kind of a clandestine, off the radar, design studio for Chevy.
Yeah, I just see even when the new Camaro first came out, from the side, I definitely saw that GTO concept.
I mean, it was, they're undoubtedly done by the same people.
Yeah.
I mean, and there are some good products out from General Motors right now. I mean, my way of saying thank you to General Motors for the lawsuit that I've gotten into. I'm kind of forgiving them, but I still have a little statement. If you look out the parking lot, I drive a new Lincoln these days. We don't talk about that. I got a new Z06 Corvette at home too. We don't talk about that. But it's a different business. Yes, sir.
Predating PHS, you used to be able to get information from Fred Simmons. Was he one of your guys?
Oh, Fred Simmons is one of my very best friends. I mean, I talked to Fred. Fred's retired. Still living back up in Michigan, and I mean, he and I even talk all the time. I mean, great guy, and he's another one. I mean, he had no intentions of retiring from General Motors, but when the new General Motors came around, they just conveniently, his job got eliminated, and he didn't have some place to go and put him, and he got forced out the door. You hear about that in other businesses, but I mean, he's a great guy. GMI graduate, hard worker, very, very loyal. Did a great job. He ran, he was the manager over Pontiac for NASCAR for quite a number of years, and then also NHRA for both Chevrolet and for Pontiac for NHRA. And he was, had quite an illustrious career. He was a systems zone manager for Pontiac Division down in Orlando, Florida. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Just a little offbeat, you mentioned before about you never built a 72 GTO convertible.
Yeah.
And I was involved indirectly with you a couple of years ago because I had pictures of a window sticker for one at the Minnesota convention, Hokie convention. And then they went to you and found the original VIN that it wasn't. And then it turned out that the guy, when he bought it new, somebody at Pontiac printed him. It was a Pontiac printed window sticker, but they doctored it to match that it was a GTO, and it was just a Lamonic with all the options. Do you recall that? It was about 3 years ago.
I mean, part of it, over the course of time, you're asking me, I don't remember what I had for breakfast, and you're asking me what I had for breakfast.
I traced the guy down, he was in Wisconsin, still owns his car.
I mean, there's a few cars out there that, what happened with me, there's a few cars out there that are allegedly GTO convertibles, and people would go into the dealership in a few instances that figured, that, okay, the GTO is still being produced, I should be able to get a convertible. Well, the dealer's not about to go and disappoint them. I mean, there's a couple of dealers in the room, and I think you guys know what I'm saying, so they go ahead and say, well, okay, we got to order it up this way, but, we'll go ahead and make sure it handles. And when the car comes on in, they go back to the parts department, they go ahead and get the GTO decals, put them up on the fenders. And, there's a matter of ethics, and they're still going to sell the car as a Le Mans Sport with a dealer installed GTO
They
van.
got somebody, they actually printed upon the actual window sticker with correct coding and everything.
I can't believe that part of it happened, that somebody did that. I mean, you can get blank window stickers out there, that's not a problem.
It was pretty hard. Well, I know of the guy that he actually, somebody did it for him, they know the guy now.
The guy that printed the windows.
There was the little box on the window sticker, they started it in mid-72, where the shipping code was put in with letters like M or something, and be all little M's like that, and it had it, that would be pretty hard to do.
Well, I'll never say never. I mean, I've seen some strange things happen over the course of time.
But I thought I had this big deal. It was on the PY forum, and like 1,000 people looked at it in one day, and then we got a hold of you, and you just proved it.
Well, and again, I mean, I don't like to go ahead and rain on anybody's parade, but by the same token, I mean, something just didn't happen. But we need to. Anyhow, it's getting the sign that's in the wrap up time. I think it's Miller time as well. So, but anyhow, hey, I appreciate everybody's attention. I appreciate your support and everything else. And hopefully, I was able to pass on a little bit of good information to you. And if you've got any other questions, I'll still be here through the evening. I won't be heading back to Detroit until tomorrow. So, thank you once again.